Under a grim Florida sky, Thursday was a day of reckoning for drivers aiming for a Daytona 500 victory tomorrow. In order to gain one of the 28 starting positions open in this country's Super Bowl of stock car racing, 68 drivers had to fight it out in two 125-mile races. And as we looked down as they lined up at the famed Daytona International Speedway, one could feel the tension in the air. Hello, everyone. I'm Chris Economaki. In addition to getting a starting place in tomorrow's Daytona 500, the Thursday races were important to the many drivers taking part in new and as yet unraced cars. For more on that story, let's go to my CBS broadcast colleague, Ken Squire.
Indeed, you're so right, Chris. As we are about to see from the first 125-mile qualifying, parity has been reached. Those new GM10 bodies, the Pontiac, Oldsmobile, and Buick, can really mix it up with the Chevrolets and Fords. The issue here, the drivers, and no one can speak to that better than the two-time Winston Cup champion, Ned Jarrett.
Ken, the driver is very definitely back in the picture once again now. Drafting is so critical, and those that have the ability to get their cars set up right so they can run anywhere on the racetrack that they want to and do an effective drafting job, they're the ones that prevail.
So, Ned, let's review the first 50-lap, 35-car qualifier.
Jeff Bodine in car number 5 jumped out in the early lead from his outside starting position. The drivers learned very early that they can run side by side and do an effective drafting job with the leader running single file.
That's Ken Schrader back there in second, the maroon car. He'll sit on the pole for tomorrow's Daytona 500. He earned that with a lap of 193 miles per hour just a week ago. Another man that everyone watched throughout the race started 33rd. It's the number 4 Oldsmobile being driven by Bartow, Florida's Rick Wilson.
He moves around Jeff Bodine, who made a pit stop and dropped back in the field. Bodine finished 8th.
Wilson had crashed his regular car to over 190 miles per hour just 3 days previous in this backup car, started 33rd and wound up in 7th.
And Bobby Allison begins to make his way up through the field in car number 12, moving on the inside of Ken Schrader.
That's Ricky Rudd's Buick out in front, and he will carry one of our CBS onboard cameras tomorrow. Now watch this move by Allison.
How well his car handles on the low side of the racetrack.
Here's Allison challenging for first place. Two Buicks, the green car and the Allison number 12, running on the back straightaway at 190 miles per hour. And here's the reason why many consider Allison the favorite in tomorrow's 500.
Rudd's car will not stay low on the racetrack. Allison's will. He makes a very impressive move to take the lead, and Ken, he is learning something there that can help him in tomorrow's Daytona 500.
These races are called a learning experience for veterans and new drivers alike. For Richard Petty, that learning experience is one he'd just as soon forget. In lap 37, here he was, going down into turn number 1, rookie Ernie Irvan on the outside.
And his car was upset by Phil Barkdahl, who was running behind him. The back end gets a little loose on Petty's number 43 Pontiac. He loses it, he tries to correct it, and then spins all the way around.
Petty can still consider himself lucky. Look what happened to New Jersey's Jimmy Horton taking the outside wall, and easily he could have been collected by one of those 190-mile-per-hour missiles, including his own son that was traveling off turn number 2. In replay, let's look again to the airlift that car number 43 got.
The mixture of the air simply got the back end of the car light, Ken, and as it started to go around, we can see that he tries to correct it back to the right, but Phil Barkdahl pulled the car around. He oversteered it, which is a natural thing to do, and then it goes all the way around. There's his son, Kyle, going by on the outside in car number 21.
And there's the number 80 of the famed dirt track driver from the Northeast, Jimmy Horton, in real trouble. Dave Despang talked with Richard Petty in the garage area.
Richard Petty, we've seen you come from the back in the Daytona 500 before. It looks like you may have to do that again. What happened?
If I make it, that's the only way I'm going to make it. We just got caught in a draft situation down there, and the back end of the car lifted up, and when it sat down, it was sideways and spun me. And it was just one of those things that, you know, we can't control because of the way the bodies and stuff are made.
The bodies are made shorter and much rounder, Ken, at the top.
Petty will start 36 in tomorrow's 500, standing on his time. Watch what happened to Ernie Irvan here later in the race. That's Phil Barkdahl behind him. They touched, and Ernie Irvan went for one of the wildest rides in his first 125 milers. There's Brad Teague spinning, and the red and white car there, that's Mark Stahl from California, punting a man in front of him. Australia's Tony Spano spins and lands right in the center of the track. A lot of action.
Fortunately, no other cars were coming along. Ernie Irvan, though, out of it.
Watch again as to exactly what happened here. Again, that's Irvan, the white number 2 up in front. Directly behind him, Phil Barkdahl.
And Irvan comes down just a little bit. Barkdahl touches him, sends him in a spin.
The repercussions, several cars involved, no one injured, thank goodness. But Ernie Irvan's hopes as a rookie to come from California and make the 500 will have to wait another year.
Ken, I'm concerned we might see a lot more of this tomorrow when we have a full field out there running together.
42 cars strong. Last lap. Here's Allison deployed first. Rusty Wallace in the white number 27 Pontiac. He will carry one of our CBS onboard cameras. He makes a charge at Bobby Allison. But the handling of that car number 12 is so strong that no one gets another look at him. Allison, a serious favorite for tomorrow's Daytona 500 because the car really does handle.
You had a lot of handling today. How big a factor is that going to be on Sunday? We've heard about restrictors. We've heard about the draft. Is handling going to win the race?
Handling's always important at Daytona, at least from my standpoint, and the car did handle real good today. I was very happy with that. That helped us notch one for the Ronald Reagan gang.
Bobby Allison has whipped half the field for the Daytona 500 on Sunday.
So there's the top 5 from the first race. As to the other half of the field for the Daytona 500, we'll review that story following these messages.
Welcome back to the Daytona International Speedway, where the second 125-mile Thursday qualifying race was expected to see a quartet of cars fighting it out. Davey Allison's Ford, Darrell Waltrip's Chevrolet, Bill Elliott's Ford, and what they call the stealth bomber Dale Earnhardt. But right at the start, Bill Elliott was in trouble.
Ken, before this throng of more than 90,000 race fans, his Ford Thunderbird did develop transmission problems. He pulls down out of the way of the other traffic. As they go by, he coasts all the way around to the garage area where he talked with our Dave Despain.
You're going to have to come from the back on Sunday. That's a new experience for you. What's it going to be like?
It ain't going to make any difference. I felt like, it might have saved me the embarrassment of running a race anyway. I don't know. Anyway, we'll go out and do the best we can, what we got, and forget about it. That's the way things go. I had a pretty good start there on the start. When I went to third gear, there was nothing there. So
you've been the dominant force down here for the last few years. This year, you haven't been right up front. You sound a little disheartened. Is there a problem with your car, with your team?
Well, I just can't get the running like I really want it to run. And, the 12 car is going to be the car to beat. I clocked the first race, and he's going to be the car to beat.
To find this 500 victory, Bill Elliott's going to have to go the long way.
Elliott, who will start 31st based upon his qualifying speed, will have to add 2 more numbers to that number 12 of Bobby Allison. The number 17, Darrell Waltrip. The 3 of Dale Earnhardt. Here you see them first and second as they were much of the distance.
Further back in the pack, there was tragedy. Car number 92, Ralph Jones, spun. J.D. McDuffie hit him. His car turned into a fireball.
Here you see it coming to a rest in the infield, still on fire as the caution flag came out. McDuffie trying to extricate himself from the automobile.
Ken, it's very unusual to see one of these cars burn today, but evidently it knocked the top of the oil tank off, and that's what caught fire as we see McDuffie fall out of the car.
He burned his hands and arms, hurt his leg, a scene both gripping and heartbreaking. This was the first new car J.D. McDuffie had ever had. He'd been racing since 1972.
And, of course, the safety people on duty there to put the fire out and also to aid J.D.
McDuffie's best finish in the Daytona 500, 7th. 3 of the last 4 years he did not qualify for the race. This will be another of those years.
Here we see it again as Jones spun in the car number 92. McDuffie hit him, then hit the wall, and that's what burst his oil tank open and caused the fire.
Ralph Jones suffered a couple of broken ribs in this crash. J.D. McDuffie out of the 1988 Daytona 500.
As the action got back underway, Cale Yarborough was trying to take the lead from Darrell Waltrip, but much like Richard Petty in the first race, his car breaks loose. He backs it into the wall. Didn't do too much damage, though, Ken.
However, the 4-time champion of the Daytona 500 ignited these fireworks right behind him. It was a 190-mile-per-hour demolition derby. Cale talked about it later.
Cale Yarborough, nobody's won more of these 125 races than you, but it was a real thrash out there today. What happened anyway?
Well, Dave, I really don't know what happened. I was drafting along with Darrell, and I came down the front stretch, and I had a good run at him, and I pulled down to pass him going in turn 1. and Darrell stayed on the outside of him, and I guess it just took all the air away from my spoiler, and the back end got off the ground, just came around on me.
What about Sunday? You got a shot still?
Well, you know, we always got a shot. I got an 87 car, and that was the only 88 Oldsmobile we had, but we're going to pull the 87 out, and I won it here like that one time before, and we'll try it again.
A lonely seagull plays the role of vulture over a race car graveyard here on the back straightaway of the Daytona International Speedway, and here's the reason why.
One person backed off, put his brakes on, someone else hit him. It became a chain reaction, Ken, and all of those cars became involved.
In all, 8 cars were involved. There you see the Yarborough car spinning, and then the fray began further back.
Involved were Jimmy Means, Mark Martin, rookie Ed Pym, Ken Reagan, Ronnie Sanders, Cyril van der Merwe, Michael Waltrip, and look at Earnhardt get through on the outside in the black car. A miracle he made it through.
After the cautions, they got back down to some serious racing. Waltrip stayed in front the entire distance, something that's only happened once before. Again, Earnhardt deployed in second. And watch the white car on the outside, the leading Ford contender in the race. Davey Allison, 26 years old, son of Bobby Allison, around Dale Earnhardt to go into second place.
And he made the move on the outside. That's a sign that his car is really running fast on the high side of the track.
Seasoned observers like Richard Petty took careful note about Allison, and in the last lap took even more careful notes about, well, watch what happens here.
Davey tries to make a move on the inside, but Darrell Waltrip says, no, I've had that spot all day. Davey has to back off. He goes high, and here's Dale Earnhardt catching up.
The black number 3 of Earnhardt snuggles down to the bottom of turn 4 on the penultimate lap. Here they come, driving for the finish line. Waltrip has secured first place. The battle here for second. Notice Terry Labonte up on the outside, but by 4 feet. Give it to Dale Earnhardt for second place in this driving finish. Many say this is what we can expect tomorrow in the Daytona 500. And what did Darrell Waltrip, the eventual winner of this race, gain from all of this experience in this 125-miler?
What'd you learn today that's going to help you finally win this race on Sunday?
I learned that man right over there is a great crew chief. I learned that Rick Hendrick's a great car owner, and this is going to be a great year. Man, I'm so excited. I don't know what to do. It's almost like winning the 500, but not quite.
When you run flag to flag like that, you don't get to race with anybody else. Is that a problem for Sunday?
No, sir. We don't plan on racing with anybody.
Darrell Waltrip and baby Jessica in victory lane at Daytona.
Say hi. Hi.
41 other drivers don't share the Waltrip optimism about tomorrow. Here are the final results in the second 125-mile qualifier, and we'll look at how the starting field will be put together right after this. Daytona 500. Based on their qualifying speeds at over 193 miles per hour, the Schrader and outside of the front row, Davey Allison. Row 2, the 2 winners of the 125-milers, Bobby Allison and Darrell Waltrip. Row 3 will be Rusty Wallace, and alongside is Dale Earnhardt. In row 4, it's Greg Sachs and Terry Labonte. Row 5, Texas Bobby Hillen and Mississippi's Lake Speed. Row 6 will be Morgan Shepherd and Sterling Marlin. In row 7, it's Florida's Rick Wilson and Neil Bonnet. Row 8 is the 1986 winner, Jeff Bodine, and Alan Kowicki from Wisconsin. In row 9, A.J. Foyt, the 1972 winner, and the 1980 winner, Buddy Baker. Row 10 is Phil Parsons and Harry Gant. Dave Despain is standing by with the young men who share the front row for the great American race.
Now you start in the same spot as last year, second. Can you win this thing? You've had 2 shots at it this week on CBS, missed both times. What do you got to do different on Sunday?
I don't know. You know, it's just going to have to wait and see what everything looks like toward the end of the race and try to remember everything that's happened over the last couple of years and put all that to good use.
He doesn't have quite the experience, but he's getting it. This guy's got a lot of experience. Kenny Schrader, the pole sitter, drove his first stock car 18 years ago. You're a newcomer to Winston Cup only. Are you going to try to go out and set the pace from the pole tomorrow?
Well, I tell you what, it's going to be awful hard. We're not all that much concerned about leading this thing at the start. We just want to be up there towards the front, and right there at the end, we really want to be leading.
You want to lead the last lap?
Yeah, the very last lap, not with the one to go, the very last one.
You'll see all 200 of those laps here on CBS. These guys will start it from the front row. Let's go to Chris Economaki.
Thursday's races to me were a paradox. I wasn't surprised a bit to see Bobby Allison and Darrell Waltrip, veteran drivers both, win their events. but I was surprised to see veteran drivers Cale Yarborough and Richard Petty, who have 11 Daytona 500 wins between them, lose control of their cars and spin out for no apparent reason. And Bill Elliott, who has to start way in the back of the pack, and we're going to have men with 13 500-mile race victories starting at the tail end of the pack. It makes tomorrow's Daytona 500 a race that every sports fan in this country will want to see. Now, here's Ken Squire.
Well, thank you, Chris. Until today, I thought this was a race for one of the youngsters, and one of our in-car camera carriers, Ricky Rudd, Rusty Wallace, Davey Allison would come home first. But after what we've seen, I think we're going to have to go with those whose instincts have a little more experience, Ned Jarrett. Men like Bobby Allison, Dale Earnhardt, Darrell Waltrip, and of those three, I think Bobby Allison really looks the stoutest.
I think their experience will pay off, no question about it. Drafting is back in play once again, and that does take some smarts. I also, Ken, was very impressed with the parity of the cars. No clear-cut favorite as far as a brand of car is concerned.
It's tomorrow, live, 12 o'clock Eastern, here on CBS, the Great American Race from Daytona Beach, Florida. For Dave Despain, Chris Economaki, and Ned Jarrett, I'm Ken Squire. And following these messages, we'll rejoin Tim Ryan.